Never try to enter the Nexus through a door again. Nikki had thought about this sentence for the whole day. She had been mentally absent most of the time. Sitting on her park bench, she had stared into the sky, thinking about that mysterious word. Nexus. At first, Nikki had no idea what the Nexus could be, but after revisiting her dream from the last night, she realized that the door she had seen at the end was similar to the one she had seen in the door room. And then she knew it. Nikki was certain that the Nexus must be the true name of the door room, the room where every one of her terrible dreams had started during the last nights. The certainty, however, hadn't made the message written in her own handwriting appear less scary to her. And when she had come back from work, well, from her work in the park, that is, she had quickly grabbed it off her desk and ripped it apart. And now, Nikki was writing a note to herself, a short, small one, on the same kind of paper the Nexus note had appeared on. It's all just a dream. It's all just a dream. She didn't stop until the whole piece of paper was full of these repeating words. Then she stood up, still holding her note, and went to bed. It's all just a dream, just a dream. Yes, she was standing on her balcony again. In the distance, she could hear an airplane flying low above the city, heading for the airport. But this time it was different. It would be all different. She went into her apartment, happy to see that her plan had worked. The note she had taken to bed with her was still there in her hands. She quickly put it into one of her pockets in order to not lose it, and went straight on to the Nexus. This time I'll leave whenever I want to, Nikki thought, triumphant, and with a smile on her face, she opened the next door in the circle. It was another wooden one, painted in white. Huge stone walls, monuments with drawings of weird, godlike creatures on them. Some were holding a staff, others only seemed to consist of a head and 2 feet. Nikki took her time looking at these big monuments. She wouldn't hurry up this time, because she had now found a way to wake up whenever she wanted to. In the case that something terrible would happen, and that she would still be in control over her body, Nikki would just get out that note and repeat what she had written over and over again onto the paper. She had gotten this idea just today, in the park, while thinking back to her childhood. Back then, as a 12 or 13-year-old orphan, whenever she had been afraid at night in her bed, she had opened her bedside table and had taken out a small note, which said, "It is all just a dream, you don't need to be afraid." In the long run, willingly using these cards to prevent bad dreams, she had started having lucid dreams, and after a few years, she had stopped using these cards because in her normal lucid dreams, she could do whatever she wanted to, even wake up. But these new, scary dreams were completely different from anything she had experienced before. Nikki found herself in the darkness once more, searching for more of these gigantic monuments. She found them to be fascinating, and she desired to learn more about the culture that had constructed them. After a while, Nikki ran into a round blob with a big mouth. It seemed like a talkative fellow, so Nikki tried to speak with it, but the creature didn't answer. It only spewed out another one of these cards. Thinking that she was making progress really quickly this time, Nikki picked up the card, which said, "Blonde hair." "Did you know that you used to have blonde hair as a small kid? However, for some reason your hair turned brown after your 5th birthday, which made Grandma really sad. She liked to call you her blonde beauty. Nikki's father smiled as he pulled out of the driveway and onto a small country road, which, after a few kilometers, would lead them into the next big city, and from there onto the highway to their way home. Nikki started to cry as she noticed a golden strand of hair falling in front of her eyes. So this is how she would have looked like if she hadn't lost her blonde hair as a child. A small thought of returning home, waking up right now, crossed her mind, but Nikki pulled herself together and continued walking. She was not done yet. She could feel her new, golden hair flowing on her back, how it gently stroked her clothes, feeling so light, yet so strong. From the day on, her father had told her that she used to have blonde hair. Nikki had often wondered what it would be like to have long, golden hair. Now she knew. It was overwhelming. Behind a really large monument, depicting a creature with 8 legs and multiple heads, Nikki spotted another open manhole and pondered for a while, unsure if she should risk getting her new hair dirty, but then remembered that she could just wish it away and quickly did so before she went down into the canalization again. It was dark down here. A different kind of dark than in the doorroom. It was wet. Yes, the air was wet and sultry. And Nikki wondered if that was a normal thing for canalizations. She decided to head right this time, and after some walking, Nikki found an exit leading outside to a small place behind some large buildings. She was somewhere in a town, but the skyscrapers around her didn't look familiar to Nikki at all. Continuing her walk, the young girl heard water splashing in front of her and took a short look into the gutter, checking if something was living in there. Indeed, a few meters in front of her, she spotted another one of the poor metal creatures, and, eager to help it to get out of the gutter, she walked towards it, offering it her help. The stranger didn't react at all, however, and from its movements, Nikki guessed that it was looking for something it had lost in the dirty water. A few hundred meters further, she saw another one of those metal creatures, and it looked like it was searching for something as well. But as it didn't respond to Nikki's kind words, she decided to continue and not care about those life forms anymore. Soon, Nikki found herself in some kind of storage hall, in the basement of a huge building. There were a few cardboard boxes scattered around, but Nikki found all of them to be empty. Entering another part of the basement, Nikki suddenly saw a faceless ghost floating around near the dirty green water. She was sure that it would give her another one of the magic cards, so she stepped towards it. Despite it having no face, the ghost seemed rather interested in her, moving what you could call his head to both sides, as if it was looking at her with invisible eyes. Then it trailed off, leaving the card on the ground. At first, Nikki didn't notice anything, but as she observed the ground more carefully, she found the card. It was completely transparent, save for a thin outline and the white word Naparabu in its center. As she picked it up, she noticed her sight suddenly blinding out, and within a moment's notice, she couldn't see, hear, or smell anymore. Panicking, and thanks to the absence of a nose and mouth, unable to breathe, Nikki quickly thought about returning to normal again, and her face returned. Nikki took a few deep breaths before looking at the cardigan and quickly putting it back into her pocket. What a life-threatening power, she thought, as she went back and into an open door she had seen a while ago. Another big, long corridor alongside a dirty, water-filled gutter. To her left there was a grey concrete wall with a few openings, and when Nikki peered through one of them, her mind suddenly received an image of a deformed old man bleeding from a big hole in his head. Scared, Nikki withdrew her head and told herself not to look into this kind of darkness again, for something like this could drive her mad, for sure. Walking through the corridor, she saw no end, no light in front of her, nothing that looked like an exit. Instead, this long corridor appeared to loop. Nikki started to walk a bit faster before all of a sudden everything went dark, and she found herself in front of a giant red head, its tongue grotesquely sticking out of its mouth, ready to devour Nikki. Again, Nikki believed that she heard train noises, but she paid more attention to the big head in front of her. Scared, she tried to pull out her note, the note that could end all of this at once, but before her hand even reached her pocket, the head had already jumped forward and with a quick movement of its tongue, thrown Nikki into its mouth. Nikki found herself in a dark, cold area, surrounded by red and grey windmills. In front of her, she saw a shady figure, looking much like a human. Maybe he could finally tell her something about this place in her dreams. Maybe he could clear things up, make her understand. But as she came closer, she knew that this person wouldn't be able to help her at all. End of part A.